In this video, we are going to talk about the first grade time unit. Now, there are no Kinder standards that support this unit at all. So Kinder doesn't have a telling time standard, and Kinder does not have a half or halves standard. So there are no Kinder standards that support this. You are laying the foundation for the first time. So we are required in 1-7E to tell time. Not any old time, times to the hour, and times to the half hour. And we're required to do that with analog clocks and digital clocks, and making the relationship between the two. So let's talk about what that looks like. First of all, we need kids to know that this is just like a circular number line. It's just a number line from 1 to 12 that's in a circle instead of in a straight line. And we have a great activity that helps kids understand that. They actually build a circular number line. So they see that this is just a number line that keeps going in circles. So if we would start there, that would be a great way to connect that. We begin this unit by telling times to the hour before we ever worry about a half hour. So we start with things like understanding what the shorthand is for, the hour hand, and what the long hand is for, the minute hand, and what happens when the minute hand moves. I see the hour hand is moving too. So you should have somewhere on your campus some Judy clocks that are geared so that as I move the minute hand, whichever way I move it, the hour hand moves to show the correct hour. So we need to make sure kids have these in their hands for this unit. You probably have a large teacher version of this as well, but each kiddo needs their own Judy clock for this unit. So make sure you talk to your campus specialist if you don't know where those are. So kids have to read analog and digital clocks. That's a tough ask when we don't see analog clocks in our world a whole lot anymore. Everything is digital. Our watch is digital, well, unless you're like me and you like that. Your phone gives you a digital time. Everything is digital. Around our school, we have digital clocks. So if you don't have an analog clock in your classroom, please talk to your campus administrator about getting a physical analog clock for them. Now, let's talk about what kids need to know and where this tends to trip them up. In our Google Drive, I have linked a fantastic article to help kids understand what's happening when the time is moving, and to help kids understand that misconception of when the minute hand is halfway, this is just between the 4 and the 5. That can be confusing for kids. But if we'll use a model similar to this where we can see this is the 4 o'clock hour, then that will help them understand why this is still 4:30, not 5:30. Another thing that will help them when we're building the understanding of half hours is if you will build a classroom clock where it's big enough to put 5 unit cubes or snap cubes or linking cubes between each hour, or I'm sorry, each number on the clock, then they can see this is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and understand why half of an hour is 30 minutes, why it's not 4 1/2, it's 4:30. So they see that each one of those linking cubes represents 1 minute, and half of the hour is 30 minutes. So that's another great activity to build that understanding. Now, when we look at the TEKS supporting information for this unit, there's some important information there that I think we need to really think about with our students. And it brings in an idea of estimation with time. Now, we don't teach estimation rules in first grade. We don't do that until third grade. But what it does help us to understand is reasonableness. Like when you and I look at a clock that's about here, we would say it's about 4:30. It's almost 4:30. So we need kids to understand, according to the TEA supporting information, the phrase half hour, I'm reading straight from it, also indicates that students would recognize that 1:27 is closer to 1:30 than 1 o'clock. So the time would be estimated as 1:30. So we need to make sure we're giving kids the opportunity to see what's close to 1:30. What would we say is about 4:30? So that way they start building that understanding. Now, it's also important that we don't only present students with a time and ask them to give us the clock, make the clock match. So remember, we have to work with digital and analog. So I don't always want to say, show me on your clock 4:30. Sometimes I want to say, here's the time, show me on a digital clock what that would look like, so that they go both ways. Both, here's the time on the analog clock, show me what the digital would look like. Here's the time on the digital clock, make your analog clock match that. So they're using both of those tools to tell time. So some biggies, making sure that we have analog clocks for each student and one in our classroom. We're going to relate this to our understanding of halves that we learned in just a couple of units ago, half of an hour. And we could do that by showing half of the time has passed from 0 minutes to 30. Half of the hour is left to pass from 30 to 60. So I've seen a lot of teachers that have a model where this half is one color and this half of the clock is another color, so they can see the halves and relate that. We do not have to do fourths of an hour, even though we learned fourths and examples and non-examples of fourths in a prior unit. For clocks and telling time, we only have to do half an hour, so we don't have to worry about fourths. We're going to let second grade take care of that next year.